United Nations Agenda 21, Sustainable Development, is a blueprint. It is the action plan to inventory and control all land, all water, all minerals, all plants, all animals, all construction, all means of production, all energy, all information, and all human beings in the world. This is a totally comprehensive plan to inventory and control. Data collection is a vital part of this plan, of course. And we have been, of course, in the inventory phase for a very long time. And we are now moving, not that we have not been, of course, in the educational system, been in the control phase, but we are now worldwide really moving into the control phase. And this is why so many more people are able to hear this now, because we are looking at the end game. So this is a transition from representative government to government by unelected boards and commissions. This is the erasure of jurisdictional boundaries, loss of private property rights, and then ultimately loss of sovereignty and our freedom, because of course we are our most important property. So when you've lost your sovereignty, you have not just lost the sovereignty to your dirt, you have lost the sovereignty to your person. So as you know, we are concerned about this not just as Americans, but as free human beings in the world. This is an international plan. When I go out and I speak, and I do speak all over, and a lot of times at the end of my speech people come, so Rosa, so you know, where's the safe place? Where can we go? Where's the Switzerland? And I go, there's no Switzerland. There is nowhere to go. You stay and you fight it locally, because this is a global plan that is implemented locally. Here's the real deal, and I know you know it because you've been experiencing this, and those of you who are involved in education, who are teachers, who are administrators, who are parents, who have recognized over the years the takeover of your educational system, what you recognize is that United Nations Agenda 21, Sustainable Development, is the biggest public relations scam in the history of the world. But it is far more than that. It is a recipe for destruction. It enables and justifies monitoring and metering and restricting our energy and our water usage through smart meters, instituting a carbon tax on our industry, pulverizing our roads and destroying our dams. You might use that water. Sinking our economy, of course, this is planned. This is a planned collapse. Exhausting our military with endless war. Diagnosing a huge portion of our population with mental illness and drugging us. Bleeding our transportation budget with high-cost trains to nowhere. Revamping our school system by inserting sustainable development principles into every course from pre-kindergarten to postgraduate school. Rethinking mathematics. Nothing to do with mathematics. Declaring our public lands off limits to humans. Changing every land use document in the nation to require high-density housing in city centers to more easily control us, to place us where we can be managed and surveilled, allowing warrantless searches and domestic surveillance, identifying us as potential enemy combatants, and redefining torture. You know, if an enemy was trying to destroy us, it couldn't do a better job, could it? In fact, what would an enemy do? Destroyed infrastructure, destroyed dams, destroyed the schools, destroyed the energy system. This is what an enemy does to a people. This is the erection of a corporatocracy. It is a global totalitarian state, and it is happening now. No flashing lights. You're not going to see it called Agenda 21. They don't use that term. In fact, just recently, I'll tell you, for quite a while, it was Agenda 21. What are you talking about? You kind of, what is that hat, that tinfoil thing on your head, right? Oh, you have black helicopters over your head, right? Well, those days are over. Because we know, and they know that yes, Agenda 21 is a real plan, signed onto in 1992 by our president, George H.W. Bush, and 178 other world leaders. Now, Agenda 21, that 300-page, 40-chapter document, is itself a green mask. And that's why, one of the reasons I called my book Behind the Green Mask, because it is a stealth plan. It's designed to hide in plain sight, to manipulate you, to use jargon, to show you that yes, indeed, you are protecting the planet by going along with this wonderful sounding plan. There's an overreaching political and social philosophy that goes with this plan, and it is communitarianism. Yes. And communitarianism says that the individual's rights need to be balanced with the rights of the community. Now, we know that we have a constitution, right? It guarantees our individual rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, whatever that may mean to us. These are our individual rights. They're not granted to us by our government or our document. They are guaranteed to us. We were born with those rights. But in communitarianism, you must balance those rights with the rights of the community. Now, the community's rights are not delineated. They are not written. They can change at any time. And when you balance them, of course, you are balancing the individual's rights against some amorphous, undefined rights that are the rights of the global community, mainly. Now, the individual, that poor, selfish little individual who's thinking about your individual rights, you are being balanced with the rights of the community. The individual rights always lose against the weighty rights of the global community or your local community or whatever community is being pitched against you. So your rights are like a feather, and the rights of the community are like a brick. And this is the way it's done. And I like to use an image for the Hegelian dialectic because, of course, this is what informs communitarianism when you've got crisis and then you have a solution, and the third way is the so-called compromise. Well, here you go. Let's just think of ourselves and well, let's just use these two colors. Let's say we're white. Our position as a free people is a white can of paint. And the position of communitarianism is a red can of paint, let's just say. Well, the friction between the two, we must have compromise. Let's pour them together, and now we have pink. Well, now we're at our new normal. This is our new normal. Well, we're still going to take the community's rights and balance them with our rights, and we're going to pour them together. Now we're like dark pink. Okay, one more time, and we are in a communitarian state. Now, a communitarian state, we know we're in a constitutional republic. We're in the United States of America, constitutional republic. A communitarian state is communist China, Soviet Russia, Nazi Germany. It's all for the fatherland. It's all for the common good. It's all for the homeland. The homeland. So, you need a crisis, right? What's the crisis? Global warming, climate change. There you go. Here's your crisis. It's serious. The planet's in danger. The sea levels are rising. Life forms are threatened. Panic, chaos, collapse. Unless we do something really fast. Communitarianism is dependent on you not being able to think clearly. It's dependent on keeping you in a panic, unable to protest or think clearly because we must do something now, the crisis. I'll tell you how it's described in my local rag. It says, it's hard to deny that the Earth is functioning well over capacity. Like an overworked horse, it's simply a matter of time before the global organism collapses. Woo, feel that? Feel that tension? Oh, feel that? All intelligent people agree that it's our fault. Our selfish, greedy, wasteful ways have destroyed the planet, almost. But here's the UN to the rescue, right? 1987, the UN's World Commission on Environment and Development, that was the Brundtland Commission. 1987, they came out with Our Common Future. And they said that's where, you go to your mayor, or you go to your city council, you go to your county supervisor, and you say, have you ever heard of Agenda 21? And they say, we don't know what you're talking about. Nutcase, move right along there. And you say, well, wait, before you throw me out of the office. Have you heard of sustainable development? Oh, yeah, of course. Sustainable development, good. Sustainable development's good. Okay, where did sustainable development come from? Now we got sustainable soccer balls, sustainable shoe laces, right? Sustainable toilet paper. Okay, everyone knows sustainable development now, right? Where did that term come from? It came from the United Nations in 1987, the World Commission on Environment and Development, and it is defined as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. Well, that sounds cool. I don't think anybody showed up on the Maine shores 200-300 years ago expecting to compromise the ability of future Mainians to, be able to live. Manians. Maniacs, the maniacs. This is what all of us want, is to preserve the future, to preserve, whatever, okay? Well, of course, they immediately then decided, yes, indeed, everything we're doing is compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. And what are we going to do about it? And the General Assembly said to that commission, they said, will you come back in 5 years with the action plan for implementing sustainable development and, worldwide? And they said, sure, we'll do that. And they did. They came back with it, and here it is. Agenda 21, the United Nations Program of Action at Rio. And as I said, this is a green mask. There's a lot of it that sounds good if you're not thinking clearly, or maybe if you can't read too well. So,
hey, that's right.
By the way, I want to say, I truly, really owe everything to my mother. And I do wish that my mother was still alive, because she would be with us right now, right with us. And I learned to read, probably maybe even before I could actually walk, on my mother's lap. My mommy taught me how to read. And I was given a library card, and the librarian was told she could read anything she wants out of the library. I took my full 10 books out every week. I read everything. I read whole shelves, right? And the joy of knowledge could not be compared with anything. There was nothing more enjoyable than reading. What a thrill. And I mean, you could spend your time with someone who had been dead for 300 years.
Yes.
And it was just so fabulous. And of course I loved it. And of course, as a little child, I would say, Mommy, what does this mean? And she'd say, this was our, go look it up, right? Wherever she was in the house, go look it up. And so of course we had this big, huge dictionary that was like, this thing. And I would go and look it up, and I would spend hours in the dictionary, because from that word, I would go to the other word, and the etymology of a word, and going from, hours and hours of joy with the language. And, this is something that is being taken away from people. And it is a crime. I agree with you. It is a very serious crime. And the other thing, of course, I happen to be a commercial real estate appraiser with 30 years of eminent domain experience and testifying as an expert witness for the Department of Transportation and District Branch Chief. And of course, mathematics, I love math, Math is important to people because if you do it right, you always get the same answer. It is a joy. It is a fabulous experience to know that you can be right, that there is a clarity to that no matter how wild and chaotic the world is, that you can reach the same answer every time with mathematics. And that is being taken away from children as well, with rethinking mathematics and other things that implement the teaching of sustainable development principles so that the actual reality, objective reality, is no longer discernible. And this is a crime. This is a crime. There is no greater crime, really. It is people's minds are being destroyed. And that's what we're talking about today. So, what's unsustainable? Single-family residences, private vehicles, meat eating. That goes over really big in Texas, I'll tell you. Livestock, dams, air conditioning. We're talking about the middle-class lifestyle is unsustainable, and this is something that is aspired to by everyone, of course, in our nation and around the world. People want to have a life where they can think about something else besides trying to feed themselves. An animal spends its entire life looking for something to eat or a place to sleep. Subsistence. We have a beautiful mind, and this is what is being destroyed through this plan. So I want to tell you that, of course, it's based on the precautionary principle, and that says that, if an action or a policy has a suspected risk of causing harm to the public or the environment, in the absence of scientific consensus that the action or policy is harmful, the burden of proof that it is not harmful falls on the party taking the action. How do you like that, huh? Guilty until proven innocent. That means, you think climate change, global warming isn't right? Oh, I've got 30 scientists, I've got 100 scientists, I've got 1,000, I've got 10,000, I've got 200,000, I've got 1,000,000. Irrelevant. Yeah. In the absence of scientific consensus. So in other words, we're talking about there is no way to determine objective reality because those who are in charge, in control, are the ones who are determining if there is a suspected risk of causing harm. And this is having a tremendous impact. Tremendous impact. It is supposed to only make policy in the United States. We call it the precautionary approach in the United States rather than the precautionary principle, but it is making policy right now all across the United States, and we are seeing it everywhere. So we're talking about a global plan implemented locally, and this is very important because what we're talking about, we have in our country city, county, state, and federal. If you're in Canada, it's, city, county, province, crown, federal. This is what we have. We have elected officials, those who we know locally. We elect them if we really like them. Supposedly we move them up a notch, and this is how they get, vetted by us, and this is how we have representative government. Well, what we are looking at is the transformation. And you'll see this word a lot. It's a favorite word of Agenda 21, transformation. What does transformation really mean? It means total destruction. Transform, you'll see this. The transformation of our representative government at levels that we can elect and have, and have some kind of an impact on to global, regional, neighborhood. None of those levels is elected. We have no impact on any of those levels, and they are non-governmental. So how's this happening? Okay, let's talk about how it's getting in. Now what I have had an education here, and I am very grateful for that today and yesterday, because I haven't had an education on education. And this is, of course, vital, because we are talking about, you take the children from birth to age 7 and their mind for life. Who said that? Hitler. So, when you're talking about that, but now let's say, where is it? It has passed through the educational system. Now these people are running our world. Okay, so in 1992, George H.W. Bush signed on to it. 1992, 93, or, November of 92, Clinton was elected. 93 took office. 6 months later, he created the President's Council on Sustainable Development, and its sole purpose was to implement United Nations Agenda 21 in the United States. And that is what they did. These were 12 federal agencies, and they changed their policies to bring them into alignment with the United Nations Agenda 21. Also on that council were captains of industry, primarily energy, like Kley of Enron. And also we had environmental groups, like the Sierra Club, like the Natural Resources Defense Council, World Wildlife Fund. Okay? These were the change makers. And what did they do? First thing they did was they gave a multi-million-dollar grant to the American Planning Association because they said, hey, we need to get this into every single community, every single town, every single city, every county, every state in the entire United States. And we want to get that in so that we change everyone's land use plans. Because this is a plan to move you out of the rural and suburban areas and into the cities where you can be more easily monitored and managed and controlled. So APA said, sure, we'll do it for about $5 million. They did. They wrote Growing Smart legislative guidebook with model statutes for planning and the management of change. There's that word, change. Now here we go. People think change is what's in their pocket or something that's, sort of organically happening, right? But change, as you know, being educators, being people who are involved in education, change is now the transformation of our traditional life to what we're going to, which is life that we have no control over, life where we are mere animals, moving parts in a machine. So by 2002, this book was in every single planning department, every university, and every college in the entire United States. Growing Smart is smart growth. Those model statutes, you think your city council, you think your county supervisors are coming up with those rules and ordinances and statutes and laws on their own? No, they are not. They are coming out of a book. If they don't get them from there, they get them from the National Association of Counties. They get them from the National League of Cities. They get them from ICLEI, and I will talk about that. So, smart growth. What's smart growth? Let's just think about this. Where do we live? Where are we now? I will tell you that most of Maine, if not all of Maine, is to be no more. That people will be living in New York City or Boston. You will be moved out of here because we are in sprawl. That ugly word, sprawl. What you are looking at in this beautiful environment here is sprawl. And what our goal is to move people out of the rural and suburban areas. So this is how they did it. By 2002, they had the book in every single university and every single municipality. And the planning revolution began. But just a minute. The President's Council on Sustainable Development, they said, we can do most of this administratively and we can get this into these cities and counties and states, but the people are not going to be real happy about this when they wake up and they recognize that they have been manipulated. So we have to make them think that this is all their idea. And this is what they did. They came up with another book. They commissioned another book. It's called Sustainable America, A New Consensus. This is the new consensus. Neutralization of the opposition. Neutralize and convert your enemies. This is consensus now. When you go to a government meeting, when you are invited to come on down to your Vision 2025, to your Plan ET, to your Granite State Future, to your One Bay Area, to your One Valley, One Vision, all of these plans are the same plan, and you are being brought in. You're sitting at these little tables, your knees are up against the edge of the table, and you have your crayon and you see the city map laid out there and you're supposed to draw your vision, what you'd like to see. And they put up on the screen the idea, this is you want business as usual? Well, we're going to shame you. We're going to embarrass you. We're going to mock you. We're going to make you feel that you're the only one who feels that way. And everyone else who's sitting there thinking the emperor has no clothes is going to sit there quietly because they don't want to be made fun of and shamed and embarrassed. You got to have guts. So you're going to see that thing on the screen and it's going to say business as usual. That's where you live. That's where we are in sprawl. That's where we are right now. But no, that's not what you want. That's not what you want. You want planned future. That's what you want. That's what they call it, planned future. You want high density urban development right down in the center of your city. And I don't care how rural you are, they're going to do it. You'll be the interim. You'll have this little high density thing in the center of your little rural town. That'll be the interim thing. They'll move you there first, and then from there you're going to go into the big city. But here you go. What's it look like? Smart growth. Ground floor retail, 12 feet high, built right to the edge of the sidewalk. On top of that, 2 or more stories of residential condos or apartments on top of that. In the alley behind, you've got access to parking for 1 car or less per unit. Around in the front, you've got your sidewalk, maybe extra wide sidewalk for those bistro tables for the coffee shop that's there in every single building on every single block. Are they kidding? Most of this is bankrupt. Most of it's vacant. Out there in the street, you've got a road diet. You used to have 4 lanes through your town, but now you've got 2. One going in either direction with a median down the center. You've got bike lanes on either side because you know no matter where you live, it never rains or snows. And you're going to be getting to wherever it is that you're supposed to go on your bike. So that's your life. Now this is supposed to be built in a transit-oriented development, and this is where this is where we're going to go with this, is, high-density urban development that is served by transit. Now that may be a high-speed bus. It might be that doesn't exist or breaks down or is hardly ever dependable, or you're going to sit out there and freeze your butt off and wait for your job, and you're not going to make it. You're going to get fired. That's your life. Or there's going to be a train that doesn't really exist but takes all of your tax money for the rest of eternity. So I know that you guys know this. This is for people who don't believe that there's really Agenda 21. They somehow just looked at that book and thought I made it myself. This is Rescue Mission Planet Earth, a children's edition of Agenda 21. This was put out, yes, this is true. Let's see, it was put out in 1994 by the United Nations. Introduction by Boutros Ghali. And who's it by? The Children of the World. It says that, Children of the World, by the Children of the World. And inside there's all these great little pictures and stuff. It's real cool. And it's, the Children of the World talking about how the planet is just so messed up and it's all their fault. Rivers of shame. And here's one thing in here that's just a happy little quote for you when you're 12 and you're looking at this. It says, "The planet groans every time it registers another birth." Yeah, right. And then there's all these storks carrying babies to their demise. So in the back of this thing, you can get this for 99 cents on Amazon. In the back, you've got this children's activity booklet. It's real cool. And it says, I'll just tell you the little thing here. It says, turning Agenda 21 into action is a big challenge for us all. Thousands of people at the United Nations and in governments are working on it. This booklet will show parents and educators how children can start to be a part of this work. Isn't that nice? Yeah, so you know that the idea is that life out here in the burbs or in sprawl is unsustainable because we produce too many greenhouse gases, right? And, it costs too much to get public transportation out here to sprawl. And so that's the justification for moving you, Charlotte, off of your lovely property and into Portland, Maine, or Boston, or New York, right? This is the idea. We're not going to get public transportation out here. We're going to have to get you to the city. That's smart growth. And then, of course, what are we going to do? We have all these people coming to the city. Where are we going to put them? We're going to have to put them in smart growth. Because, come on, we don't want people using up all that energy, and we don't want people having to drive. They have to be in city centers so they can walk and bike to everything. So this is the green mask for it. Okay, so who's doing it? Well, they're all doing it. Your government is doing it, but they're partnering with ICLEI, which is the International Council on Local Environmental Initiatives. Everybody thinks they know what it is. Everybody's pretty hip to it by now. And of course, they did change their name to Local Governments for Sustainability because they wanted to fool you into thinking that it's local. And it's not. It's an international stealth organization that was created prior to United Nations Agenda 21 being written. And in fact, they wrote Chapter 28 of Agenda 21. So this, it's integral. It's a UN-sponsored group. It is an NGO. It has special consultative status to the United Nations. And here's the thing. If you go to their old website, which is all you're going to find right now because they took down the new part right after Rio Plus 20, they say they represent about 600 million people in 70 countries worldwide. Nobody knows, hardly anybody knows. People are unaware of when it was that their city signed on to it. And, it's a non-governmental organization made up of local government officials. Now, you guys know that we have open meeting laws, right? These sneaky people can put up a sign at Friday at 5 p.m. near the bathroom in the city council chambers for a Monday morning meeting, but they got to do that. That's your government. But this is a non-governmental organization made up of government officials who get together and share information on how they are going to make more and more restrictive laws and policies that are managing and monitoring us. So what they do, there's no transparency, right? Of course, I'm going to get into this when I give I'm not going to do my entire speech now because it's a long day, but Maine has 11 members of ICLEI, and all of those members are also signed on to something that's very interesting. Now think about Kyoto, right? The United States did not ratify the Kyoto Treaty, right? Kyoto said, what was Kyoto? It said it's an international treaty. It says that nations will reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. It's an anti-sprawl agreement. And it is also a carbon trading agreement. Now, ICLEI has on their website a map that shows 1,200 members worldwide. But for a little while, for just a little while, during Rio Plus 20, they had another map on their website, which I was able to pull off. I'm glad I got a screenshot because it's gone. There are now 7,800 members of ICLEI worldwide. 7,800 members. There's probably, I don't know, 1 billion people. These are the biggest cities in every country. We're talking about the major cities in every country, including the United States. All the major cities, New York City, Boston, Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco, all the major cities are members. So what is it? It's a policy and implementation arm of United Nations Agenda 21. It monitors and measures your greenhouse gas emissions for a fee. It is also the erection of a parallel government. It's a parallel government. It is a regional parallel government. It is worldwide. Obama, when he was running last time, he made a commitment, a campaign promise, that he would be reducing, well, I don't think he thought he and Michelle and the kids would be reducing their greenhouse gas emissions by 80% below 1990 levels by the year 2050. But he made that commitment for us, and that is a commitment that made by many, many cities, counties, and states. And so, of course, I went and I got a chart, and that's in my book, to see, well, what does that mean if you reduce your, what does that mean? If you reduce your greenhouse gas emissions, if you reduce your energy, your industry, to the point where you are down 80% below 1990 levels by the year 2050, what's that going to look like? What year was that we were producing 80% below 1990? 1934. Okay, 1934, great year, banner year for this nation. As you recall, we were in the depths of the Depression. But then, think about this. We have a lot more people now than we did in 1934. So we're back on a per capita basis We're back in the 1880s with a horse, except your horse, it's got too many greenhouse gas emissions, so you're going to be on your bike. We're talking about the destruction of our industry. This is the plan. This is what it's about. I also want to mention for ICLEI that one of the members of ICLEI's executive committee, Worldwide Executive Committee, is the Organization of Islamic Capitals and Cities. So what we're talking about are a lot of nations, as our issue with the United Nations, that these are nations that are regulating, restricting, monitoring, managing, spying, finding out everything about our water system, our energy system, our transportation system, doing everything that can be done to restrict our access and ability to use our resources. So, what's the goal? It is using the green mask, what I call the greenhouse gas mask, of environmental concern. This is a hijacking of the environmental movement, very clearly. The two parts of Agenda 21 are imposed on us, and that is smart growth, moving populations into concentrated city centers for surveillance purposes and monitoring and manipulation, and the wildlands, which is getting people out of the rural and suburban areas, blocking access to wilderness roads and resources, and shifting land ownership from private to public, taking the land away from the people. Now, the way this is done is right in your town. This is a global plan implemented locally, and the way it is done is through Growing Smart Legislative Guidebook. This is a 12-pound book. I only brought the cover. So it's the real deal. And it's a very comprehensive plan. That is Growing Smart, okay? So what we're looking at is a change in your general plans. And this is what you know if you're involved in property, if you're involved in land use, you understand that your zoning sits on top of your general plan. Your general plan is the overall plan for your jurisdiction, for your municipality. It's what they want to see in land use. It's their wish list. It's their plan, their overall plan. Now, when they change the general plan, when they change the land use designations on that general plan, they don't notify the individual property owners that their land use designation has been changed because it's a general plan. They also call it a comprehensive plan in some states and a master plan in some states, okay? So what that means is that when your land is general planned to transit-oriented development or mixed use, and you out here on this nice piece of property with one house on it, and you go in and you want to do something with your property, and you find out that no, your zoning, even though you're still zoned single-family residential, that zoning goes out the window because we're talking about your general plan. And if you're in conflict with your general plan, you need to be brought into compliance with your general plan. Now, when you get told that your general plan is up for, some places are making voting on general plans. Now, I'll tell you, do we want to be able to vote to have a regional board or commission? We're talking about unelected boards and commissions, but would I be happy if it was elected? Absolutely not. No, I do not want to see an elected regional board either, because we have an established governmental structure, and that is city, county, state, and federal. And we do not want an overlay that is elected or not, because people will be Delphied. You can Delphi one person all the way up to the entire world, and the entire world is being Delphied right now. So let me just show you, here's Marin County's general plan, cover of Marin County's general plan. It's a county in California, a very beautiful, wealthy county adjacent to my county. And right inside of the Marin County general plan, you will see the logo for United Nations Agenda 21 Sustainable Development, which are the three circles of ecology, economy, and social equity. And where those are in balance, these are the three pillars of United Nations Agenda 21. Where they're in balance, that's sustainability. And this is what you're going for if you're a government official, if you're a planner. You have been indoctrinated that you are looking to implement sustainable development goals in every single city, county, and state in the entire United States.
What is social equity?
What is social equity? Social equity is one of those terms that is so open-ended. But when you really take it out and disperse it completely over every aspect of our lives, we're looking at no one having more than anyone else, no one being worth more than anyone else, everyone being equal. And this is, we're talking about in the educational system as well. As you know, everyone comes up in a cohort, no one left behind, no one stands above anyone else. Everyone is, you know, we're looking at a world in balance. We're looking at the establishment of mediocrity because we don't want people who stand up and say, I don't like this plan. This is not my plan. This is not our plan. Take your dog and pony show and get out of our town. That's what a free person does. That's what a person, what a human being does. You stand up and you say, no, we will not allow our nation to be taken over by this. And this is how you take care of it. So you're going to see it. It comes through your town as federal grants. You've got HUD grants. You've got education grants. You've got Department of Energy grants. You've got Department of Transportation grants. They come down to your cash-strapped city or county that has had all of its industry destroyed. You have no money. You're in a situation where subsidies are going to favored developers who are building smart growth, the hardscape for our future poverty, and your tax dollars are paying for it. Your transportation and property tax dollars are paying for this. Now, there is no demand for it, and when you're in real estate, I am an appraiser, and I didn't appraise houses. I appraised shopping centers, airports, office buildings, big stuff that a freeway was going to go through a piece of. And the government wanted to know how much to fairly compensate the owner for. So when I'm looking at that and I'm saying, okay, what can be done with this property? And you want to fairly compensate and you understand the way markets work, if there's no demand, it doesn't get built because no one's going to buy it, right? No. Smart growth, there is no demand for smart growth. There's no demand for that because why? It's very expensive to build. It's got double risk rate because you've got commercial and residential. It's a big mess to try and get a loan on, and I will not go into it, but that's the way it works. So you need government subsidies, and those come from your transportation and property tax dollars. Through your redevelopment agencies, you are actually indebted for 30 to 45 years to pay off those loans for that smart growth in the center of your town. So you're going to see it come into your town as climate action plans. You're going to see it as, you'll see it as I said, it gets all those cute names like Plan ET. They all have cute names. In my area, it's called Plan Bay Area. It's called One Bay Area. One Bay Area. It's 9 counties, over 7 million people. And what are we looking at? We're looking at the preferred plan types, the buildings that you can construct. These are all smart growth of varying heights. That's what the difference is. $200 billion over the next 25 years in funding for this. Your city will not get any of that money unless it agrees to build smart growth and agrees to build it exactly where this plan tells them it can be built. In priority development areas. Now, when you're talking about priority development areas and you're spanning 25 years, that is a generation of property owners. This requires all of your future population growth be accommodated in these planned priority development areas before any other property can be developed. Think about that. We're talking about, and I'm not just talking about, you know, your town. And I'm not talking about your urban growth boundary. I'm talking about specific locations that are like a quarter of a mile in radius from your train station. You're out of that area. Nobody has built the full complement of residential development within that circle yet. Well, you don't get your planning. You don't get your permit you're not building. What's that going to do to your economy, your local economy? What is that going to do to your buildings? What is that going to do to your real estate market? What is that going to do to your loans? What is that going to do to your future? This is the way to take us down using our land use, okay? Now, as I said, it's called by many names. It might be called Plan Bay Area. It might be called, Baltimore 2050. It might be Granite State Future, whatever they're going to call it. It's all the same plan. I have here the Hanoi Capital Regional Plan 2030. Hanoi, Vietnam, Gateway 1, that's right. Gateway Highway 1, that is right, yes. You got it here, we got it everywhere. It's everywhere. It's regional government. And here's how it goes. This is what it looks like, okay? It's an unelected shadow government, and it is sold to you as an economic driver. You want to be able to compete? You better get on board with this regional plan, because you know what? It's revenue sharing. Because if you want to be able, we don't want any petty fighting between these between Dresden and Michikopi or whatever's up the road here. We want you guys to all recognize that you're a region working together. We're going to all work together. So this is how they do it. Think about this one. 32 counties, 4 states. West Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. 17,000 square miles. 1 region, 1 vision, 16 counties, 3 states. These things are all over the United States. We've got a huge country. We don't talk to each other much. No. They all go to conferences where they get this information, and they come back to your little town and they go, come on down and give us your opinion about this cool new plan. And they've already had the strategy meetings with they have picked whoever it is who's the mover and shaker in your town, and they take them out to lunch and they say, we're going to make you some money, baby. And they say, okay, cool, we're going to bring in our butcher, our baker, and our candlestick maker, and they're going to vet the plan in advance so that when you and I, if we find out about this meeting, which they hide in the back of the paper, if they put it in there at all, if we happen to wander into this meeting by mistake, where it's usually held in an elementary school where I said your knees are up against the bottom of the table and you've got your crayon and your gold stars, and the property owners that you're coloring on their property to show them what you want to see there in town, they're not there. They didn't get invited. They don't even know this meeting is going on. Okay, so there's your planned future for you. Oh, it looks so cool. You're visioning on somebody else's property, and it's about public-private partnerships. Public-private partnerships. Because none of this stuff pencils out. It doesn't make sense financially. So sustainable development, smart growth, it's an ideology. It's not just a design style. They call it new urbanism. It's anti-rural, and it's anti-rural people. It's the target on you. We are looking at transit villages, which will then be ringed with food sheds. Okay, how much food can be grown in that area around that transit village you thought was a city. Now it's called a transit village. You no longer have a private vehicle. You get around by bicycle or walking. You are taking a bus if you have one, a train if you have one. Your area is ringed by your food shed. The number of people who can live in your transit village is determined by how much food, calories can be grown in that food shed. Think about this. This is speculation. If you live in that so-called transit village and you want to have a baby, well, we have to decide if there's enough food, enough calories before you can have a baby, Ms. So-and-so. We're going to have to wait for somebody to die before we can give you a permit to have your baby. Or you want to marry someone from another transit village? This is what we're talking about here, is total and absolute control. And this is how, this is what it looks like. They get right down into your neighborhood associations, and that's in my book, how they take over your neighborhood associations. Who's they? Who's they? They is your government, government officials, change agents, people who've been trained by the American Planning Association, by the American Bar Association, by the Chamber of Commerce, by the universities. They have been through the universities and have been trained. And they are being told that, yes, we need a neighborhood alliance because they need buy-in. They're looking for buy-in for these plans. Never have the opinions of so many people been so solicited and so ignored. This is about public buy-in. They don't let you share your opinion in the meeting because if you did, you would know you're not the only one who doesn't like it. So they keep you from letting others know what you think. You're put in very tightly controlled situations where you have your little clicker to vote with, or you raise your hand, you're hokey pokey here, and everybody else in the room is getting paid to be there. And I show you, you know, I mean, I'm not trying to sell my book. But my book does have great information on it, on how to anti-Delphi a meeting, how to take over a meeting, how to stop this from happening. And they will change their methodology. But basically, they need buy-in. They want public buy-in because they want to say it's your plan. You can't complain. It's your plan. You were there. You vetted it. You liked it. Or why didn't you show up? We told you it was happening. And you, Kelly, you had that thing in your area. We have 7 million people in the San Francisco Bay Area, 9 counties. They had 9 meetings, 1 for each county, 100 seats in each one of those meeting rooms. We found out about it because we're tied in with people. We showed up, 900 people out of 7 million were going to give their opinion, and 90% of the people in those rooms, 90 of those 100 people were on board with a plan, were brought in to sit there and be the public. I'm telling you. And what did we do? We anti-Delphi'd. We shook them up. We've got some videos online called Near Riot at Delphi meeting. And that'll show you how we just created a big scene. You know, they bring police in now. They're bringing police into meetings. It gets worse, of course, because it wouldn't be our story if it didn't. You thought we had 50 states, but we have 11 megaregions. 11 megaregions. Now that is not that they took the country and divided it into 11 pieces. No. Those 11 megaregions, they are 26% of the land area of the United States, with 74% of the population in them. And the plan is to move 90% of the people into those specific large cities. When they build that smart growth and you're sitting there laughing, you're like going by and you're going, look at that thing, it's been vacant for 4 years. Boy, did they screw up. That's the hardscape for your future poverty. Waiting for you there. So with the megaregions, in fact, Maine is part of the Northeast megaregion, Northern Virginia to Southern Maine, west to the Appalachians, east to the Atlantic, part or all of 11 states. Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Maine. Cascadia, that's the one that's Washington State, part of Oregon. It's never the whole state, right? They cut the states. They are breaking jurisdictional boundaries. So they got part of Oregon, part of Washington, and part of Canada. Part of Canada, part of Canada, part of Canada, part of Canada.
Okay.
Then, in the Southern California one, they got part of Mexico. You got it. That's right. How about it? Yeah. High-speed rail is the #1 building block. #1 building block for megaregions. It's designed to fail. Designed to take your money and sink your transportation dollars for a long time to come. You're not going to see a train ever. It's about taking your money and sinking it down that rat hole. Yeah, it's designed to suck your dollars. This is a plan designed to impoverish us. This plan is designed to take our independence away from us, make us totally dependent on government. Totally, you think you're going to get smart meters off of the side of a 200-unit building owned by your government in partnership with a corporation? This, you want to see what it looks like? It looks like the EU, European Union. I just spoke at an international global governance conference. I didn't know that's what I was talking about, but now I know. One of the other speakers was President Václav Klaus of the Czech Republic, and also former Prime Minister John Howard of Australia. Well, President Klaus said, we struggled to get out from under the Soviet Union. We fought for our independence and our freedom. We wanted to join the EU. We wanted to be part of Europe. He said, now we are under the thumb of Brussels. We have lost our independence. This is the goal. Global governance. We are talking about unelected boards and commissions all the way up to a global level. We are talking about regions. We are talking about livable community partnerships, sustainable community, one planet community. This is what it's about. So, of course, communitarianism, we have the Kelo decision. I know you recall that. What that did, that was not about being able to take your property and give it to somebody else. That's an old story. That's called redevelopment, and we've had that for a long time. What that Kelo decision did was it changed the definition. You know, we've got a Fifth Amendment to our Constitution. It says that your property, the right of the king, the right of the government to take your property for a public use and justly compensate you. That is what eminent domain is. Do I support that? You bet I do. You want to get here, you got to drive on a road. That's how you got here, through eminent domain. I spent 30 years of my career working for a huge engineering firm, right? The California Department of Transportation. You need that. But what we're talking about is, what did Kelo do? It redefined public use to whatever it was that your municipality wanted it to be. Anything that makes more money for your municipality is considered to be a public use. This is what happened with Kelo. Now the other part, I'm just going to tell you that the Wildlands project is a real thing. It is designed to get people out of the rural and suburban areas. And how is it done? I've had people come up to me, farmers from all around the United States. They say, Rosa, nobody's getting me off my land. I got my little pop gun here. I tell you, the government's gun is a lot bigger than yours, honey. And of course, I have a bazooka myself. And you know, they say, hey, you know, nobody's getting me off my property. I got my well, I got my land, I got my food, I'm doing good. And I say, all right, let's do this. Let's pulverize your roads going out to your property, as they are doing in my county, Sonoma County, California. We have almost 1,384 miles of county roads, and they are only going to be paving 150 miles of those county roads because there's not enough money, right? This is about bankrupting your local government. So your local roads will not be paved. Your schools will be closed in the rural areas. Your postal service will be closed in your rural and suburban areas. And I'm not just talking rural here. I'm talking suburban too. Because what did this economic collapse do? This fake, phony, invented, created economic collapse that got a whole lot of people to get loans they couldn't afford with loan structures that could not be understood by the average person. 1999, President Clinton put out a directive to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac saying, you've got to lend money to people who can't qualify. And they said, uh-oh, we might be in trouble if in the future we might run into a similar thing to the savings and loan crisis. And they said, no, that won't happen. Right, so this is the plan, is to impoverish us, is to create these entire areas of our country that are now vacant, homes that are vacant because people lost them. And all the infrastructure out to them costs money, must be maintained regardless of whether people are there or not. So that tax base is not there to maintain it. So then they say, let's demo all those homes because they're getting crack houses and people are turning tricks in there and we got to close those. Let's get them. Let's have the government acquire them from the banks. And then the government will run it as a park. Your government that can't keep your street lights on now. This is not about providing services to you. This is about getting you out of the rural and suburban areas. And this is part of what this collapse is. So here we are. Here's America. This is a map of the North America wildways. Now, they're not kidding around here. This is Wildlands Network. This is the plan Now, if you can see this, we're talking about these arrows represent the, well, what are they? They're the wild ways. These are the areas that are going to be corridors, buffer zones, and core areas. And I know you've got you're fortunate to have Dr. Michael Kaufman here in Maine, and he has educated you and the people of the world about these plans. Now, this is a plan to what? Create areas where supposedly wildlife can freely move without being inhibited by bipeds. So, but they, of course, you saw that, right? I mean, hey, it's like who needs Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Montana? Well, who needs Washington State, Oregon? I mean, you know, we're talking about big areas here, right? Well, they don't own this, so how are they going to get a hold of it? They're going to put restrictions on your use. They're going to have you sell them a conservation easement. We're talking about, here we are in Maine, we've got 2 counties, 1 forest, 2 countries, 1 forest, 2 countries, 5 states, 4 provinces, 2 countries, 1 forest, 2 countries, 5 states, 4 provinces. This crosses national boundaries. Why? Because a fish doesn't know what country it's in. Because a deer doesn't know if it's crossing from your county into your state. This is about destroying boundaries, jurisdictional boundaries, and this is one of the major ways that it's being done. No boundaries. Transborder. There's so much to talk about. I'm not going to talk too much longer, but I just want you to know that this is very serious. Here's where we are. We are fighting back. We're fighting back all across the world. This is a huge resistance. We are identifying collaborators. We're establishing safe houses. We are recognizing who's with us and who's against us. This is the Bank of America. Removing roadblocks. How to make sustainable development happen now. That looks good, doesn't it? Can't wait to move in there, right? They did this with the American Bar Association. On Common Ground. National Association of Realtors are on our common ground. It's all about smart growth. Oh, it's so groovy. Healthy eating, active living. Healthy eating, active living. It's not about an apple a day. It's about you are going to live in smart growth because you got a fat kid, you're going to lose them. They're going to come and take your child. Obesity is an epidemic. We need those kids to get exercise. So, what? Change your land use plans. Oh, that makes sense, doesn't it? Community-oriented policing. That's right. Neighborhood ambassadors for code enforcement. That's another one. Neighborhood associations. That's when your neighborhood association has been infiltrated. They are actually choosing people to be change agents or moving them into your area. We just had a guy who ran an EPA program in Washington, D.C. move into our town and become the head of our neighborhood association. The American Planning Association, they put out a 12-week-long communications boot camp for planners to tell them how they should be handling us and telling them they need to inoculate elected officials because you need to cultivate influentials and prepare them for this information that we're going to be giving them. We need to prepare them right back. We need to work with our people. We need to get people out who do not represent us, and we need to educate. It is our job as the electorate to educate those elected officials, and if they refuse to participate in our freedom, then we will remove them and we will tell them we will now do everything we can nationwide. We will target and work together to get people out of office. When we have people on regional boards, now those are elected people on those regional boards that are sitting, you know, you might have 150 people on your regional board. Those are all elected officials. You find out about recall. You can't recall anyone who's within 6 months of going out of office or has just gotten into office within 6 months, but you get together and you target somebody on that regional board, somebody who's on board and into it. You target that person and you work to recall that person and you show, and you do it across the board. We identify collaborators and then we remove them. Educate yourself and then educate your elected officials and everyone around you. You want to put out flyers. We have flyers on our website that are very, very effective flyers. You want to inform people. Most people don't know this is going on. What you want to do is You know, we've done flyers, different flyers for different things. Make them look official. Give them, drop them on doorsteps. If you live in a rural area where it's far away, you make postcards. You name and target individuals. You let them know. If you continue to collaborate, we will take you out. And we're doing it in real time, doing it now. We're going to give you a little while to read up on this, and if you participate in this plan, we will take you out. And this is it. This is war. So we're all working together, and I encourage you, there are many things. I have 20 pages in the back of my book on what you can do to fight this, and it's very effective. It's not like writing a letter to your congressman, not that that's a bad thing, but I'm talking about real stuff that you get out and do, and you are doing it. We are doing it across the world. This is a worldwide plan. Here's a little bumper sticker that I like to show people because it's very effective. It says Democrats against UN Agenda 21. And this has been posed as a conservative, right-wing thing. It is not. This is a huge nonpartisan effort. And what we are doing is exposing it. And we are having compassion for those of us who have bought into this plan, who have been propagandized, who have been through the school system, who are having the shock of their lives when they discover that, in fact, everything they believe in is wrong. Stop financing this plan. Stop making financial contributions, contributing with your time. Research every single group that you participate in. Research every consultant. Expose this information on flyers. This is the resistance. Thank you.